What's going on, folks? My name is Josh and I am the Outdoor Dude. Thanks for coming to my channel. Today, guys, I want to talk to you about my top 5 cold water bass fishing baits, so stick around.
Look at that big mamma jamma, folks.
Alright, guys, so let's not waste any time and get right into it. Now, guys, when I fish, when I approach a body of water, I usually like to work top water column down, if you haven't heard me say this already. For us in upstate New York, things get really frozen. As of right now, I'm filming this video. It's about -6 degrees outside with wind at about 15 miles an hour. So I'm inside, staying warm, and I hope you are too. Okay, so when I fish, I like to go top water column down, but in the winter, there is no top water column. What I like to start with, in that early fall transition into cold water, I like to start with a lipless crankbait. Now match the hatch where you live, whether it be bluegill, perch, or minnows that the bass are feeding on. And I like to switch up between the Cotton Cordell lipless crankbait because I'm kind of a budget fishing nut and I don't got a lot of money, so this is the type of stuff that I use. Or if I'm in ponds or something like that in the colder water, sometimes I'll switch to a smaller, like a Rapala Rip and Wrap. Now you can get these with or without the rattles. Let the fish tell you what they want. If you're fishing this a lot, if you're matching the hatch, you're fishing it good, and you know your cadence is good, your technique is good, but they're just not biting, or you're not getting as many bites as you think you should, switch it up. So again, I like to start in that early fall transition. When the water starts to get cold, I like to start with the lipless crankbaits. Alright guys, so the next bait is a suspended fish, middle water column bait again, and it's kind of a no-brainer for us northern anglers and a lot of other anglers around the country. If you've ever watched Bass Pro Circuits and you've watched KVD fish, you've seen this bait. And guys, I'm a power fisherman through and through. Now guys, I am not a fan of sitting around. I'll do it, but I don't like it. With that said, back to another middle water column bait, and for this bait guys, I'm going to go with the jerk bait. Now whatever your jerk bait of choice, mine just happens to be the Husky Jerk number 9 or number 10 Rapala Husky Jerk, silver and black. And these things are heavy artillery. When it's a little bit warmer in that fall transition into the cooler water, your cadence is faster, and you just rip. You can just rip. Keep ripping it with almost no pauses. But as you get into the colder water, what you want to do when you get this little guy down to depth, then it just sits there kind of floating a little bit, you give it a rip, and let it sit there for like 30 seconds. You just dead stick it, and it might seem just painful to do that, but that's when your bites are going to come. And it gives that bass the ability to take his time to get over there and not waste too much energy. And it makes this look like a shad dying off or minnows dying off. Now, I prefer the 3-hook, but you can always, depending on the size of your bait fish, match the hatch. You can size on down to one of the 2-hook smaller ones. Now, again, I can't stress this enough, guys. Match the hatch, match the hatch, match the hatch. If your primary forage is yellow perch, you don't want to be using something like this. In my lake, the primary forage happens to be white perch, yellow perch, bluegill, and gizzard shad. So I really like this particular Rapala. And I'm a budget guy, so I don't have the money to be spending $20 on jerkbaits. So I go with the Rapala. And this is just tried and true up here, up in the north. On to the next bait, guys. Let's say you're jerking your jerk bait back and forth. You got it down to about 4 to 5 foot depth. And you pull in a nice bass. And this bass has got mud all over his belly. And that tells you they're on the bottom. That guy swam up for it. So what I like to do in this scenario is throw a jig. Now again, go natural. Whatever works in your body of water, match the hatch. A lot of times the water gets a little bit warmer during the day. You get a warm spot with some rocks and the crayfish come out. And they just sitting there munching, and the bass will come up and munch right on them. So you could throw, depending on the size of your forage in your lake, you could just bounce a little jig across. Use realistic colors. What I would say to choose is a black and blue or green pumpkin brown. More often than not, here in upstate New York, we're fishing clear water. So my choice is a finesse jig. And I like the Missile Jigs Mike Iaconelli finesse jig. This is an awesome, awesome jig. And I pair it up with that little Yum Baits trailer. And it gives that really nice, smaller profile than your big old flipping jig. You drag this puppy across the bottom, or you slight small bounces, very, very short, small bounces, and it mimics that crayfish. Crayfish, crawfish, wherever you are in the country, however you may say it. Up here we say crayfish. So the jig, next bait up in my arsenal, guys, for the winter or cold water fishing is straight tail worm shaky head. Pretty simple, just that Berkley green watermelon black pepper flake. I believe this is the 3/4 ounce owner shaky head. This, very self-explanatory, very simple. Thread your worm on the hook, expose that bad boy, and toss it on in there. You just drag it real slow, real slow. Or what you'd really want to do with this bait, guys, is dead stick this. Just let it sit there, and it'll just kind of sit there, and this tail will dance in the current. You dead stick these, or you slowly just twitch. You don't want to move. You want to twitch the worm and the shaky head as much as possible without moving the bait as much as possible. The way it just sits there and just shakes and tremors and twitches a little bit, drives those bass crazy in the cold water. And there's a little bit of more of a finesse version of this that I like to run, and you may or may not have seen it. I will link in the description below to the video where I give a bait tip about this. I use a half a Senko, do a kind of my version of just a quick Ned rig. This is what I like to use as a follow-up bait when I am fishing a drop shot or I'm fishing a regular shaky head and I miss. This is a great follow-up baiter. This is great if they're just not feeling it and they're moving a little bit slower and they might be hitting smaller baits. Last but not least, guys, this is a secret weapon in the north. Now, I don't ice fish, although that may change this year. It's actually cold enough to get a nice hard freeze on the lake this year. But before it gets too cold and the ice moves in, I'm still fishing. And when all else fails, when that cold sets in, I like to throw a ½ ounce white jig with a grub. Little Mr. Twister grub, about a ½ ounce, depending on current and where you are. If I'm in the creeks and stuff, I like to throw a maybe a little bit of a heavier weight, 3/4 to a full ounce. That orange eye with the black dot, the white jig head, and that grub is crucial. You fish this really slow like you would a swim bait this time of year, or even if you were to move and fish a shaky head with a faster cadence. You just kind of bounce this across the bottom. Light, small jigging, little small bounces, or you drag it quick, stop it, drag it. You don't want to let it stop too much because it can fall down and you will get snagged. So this is somewhat of a moving bait. You can also fish this vertical jigging from your boat on ledges and drop-offs and points and stuff and just kind of vertical jig it up and down. Those old timers really like that vertical jigging technique and they hammer the bass, guys. The only issue with this is the bass love it, the smallmouth bass love it, but the toothy critters love it too. If you're up here in the north, put on a leader because you're going to catch some walleye and pike. I've even caught my fair share of sheep's head on these, or drum, whatever, freshwater drum, wherever you are in the country, whatever the vernacular is. Alright guys, I think that's going to do it. This is my top 5 winter baits that I like to fish with in cold water and when winter's setting in. I hope that somehow helped some of you a little bit in picking some of your winter baits. I've had a lot of people ask me the questions over the years, one, why am I out there in the cold? And 2, what am I using to actually catch fish? So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button if you like this video, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this from my channel. And, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.